the government was going to let you fail.
Right.
But this way, if you achieved,
Right.
the government was going to let you achieve. See, when you try to regulate outcome, you inhibit achievement because you can't make life an equal battlefield
for everybody,
without sacrificing success. To spread pain, you have to sacrifice success because achievement takes initiative. Right. And if there is no initiative to succeed, look, you have a dry cleaning. You have a dry cleaning business, right?
Well, for example, what it is, it's as simply as this: the reward is going to go not just to the risk taker, because there's plenty of risk takers that haven't succeed; they've fallen. But the idea is that we live in a country that we can then take a second or a third chance, and maybe then make a success story out of it, and then people go on.
But people also have a right to make a fool of themselves and to be wrong. You can't save everybody from themselves.
Right.
And that's what these intrusive things, that we don't approve of your lifestyle. So we're going to, by force of police and heavy fines, make you do the lifestyle we approve of. Sure. So now then you get the unintended consequence. Look at smoking. They put these outrageous taxes on them. What do people do? They find a way. It's a habit. It's like prohibition. People found a way to get booze. Sure. Well, cigarettes, they go to the Indian reservations to escape the taxes, or they go through the internet. Then the state screams, oh, we're getting shafted out of millions of dollars in tax money. Right. Wait a second. People wouldn't be doing this if you didn't put confiscatory taxes on the product to begin with.
Right.
If you just left it though, nobody had a problem with bootleg cigarettes when people were paying reasonable taxes.
Sure.
They didn't like it.
Well, that's like saying, why did I believe something like if the number was 125,000 families or 75,000 families left the Mid-Hudson Valley just in the last year and a half, 2 years. Guess why? Because they found out that in the Mid-Atlantic states, the taxes were 1/4, 1/8 of what they pay up here.
Well, look at you. You have a dry cleaning business, and you've expanded a little bit.
Yes.
But now, let's say you have a government program that says, okay, every time you reach this amount of income, we're going to zap you. Are you going to be so anxious to reach that amount of income?
No,
Are you going to hire that person to help you get to that amount of income?
Sure, it restricts it. If anything, I'm saying, wait a minute, I got to do more work and make less at the end of the day. Why should I bother?
That's right. That's why people have got to understand when you increase capital gains tax and dividend taxes, you inhibit risk. People don't understand that when you charge less tax, more money gets to the government because you are not inhibiting the risk. People will not take a risk if there's no reward. They'll hide the money. They can.
Sure. A la just what happened just recently with the credit system. You could see people weren't even trusting banks anymore.
Banks weren't trusting banks.
Banks weren't trusting banks. So what they did is a lot of individual things that, you know what, I'm taking my money. I'm going to put in my mattress at home before I go.
Well, you saw in the paper, home safe sales went up tremendously.
Through the roof. And gold.
And gold, yes. Can't forget
I mean,
gold.
real
Well, currency. What did your father tell you? Same thing as my father told me. Money, cash, in paper. Not this imaginary figure.
Yes.
That's garbage there. Now, I think...
Well, let me preface, let me just start by saying something, because I just want to let people know how this occurred. I'm standing in front of the Walmart. This was 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
4 years ago now.
4 years ago now, and I was running for office, and I'm in front of the Walmart, and all of a sudden this taxi cab pulls up in front of me. And I look over, and the fellow inside looks over, and we give this little glance, but it stayed for a longer period. And all of a sudden I look over and I said, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. My name is Domenic Volpe. And he goes, hi, I'm Andy. He goes, I know all about you. He goes, I wrote about you in my blog. Now I'm like, what the heck is a blog? I have no clue what this is.
Which is how I got the column. I have a blog called the Bazzo Manifesto.
Right.
Now, I've been doing that now for 6-7 years. And I do a little editorial, and then I do stories, and but I have a lot of readers. I even had a lot of readers back then.
Right.
These people that want to read it, I send it to. And I was the only one, I know at the time, that publicly came out and said Domenic Volpe should be the next county legislature. My Republican friends, and you know I have a lot of them, just couldn't believe they said, what are you, nuts? And I said, he's a businessman. I will take a businessman in office any day of the week, somebody that knows what it is, that if you don't go to work, you don't get paid.
Yeah, not only that, but you know, you hear these terms how they're going to cut the fat and they get rid of the excess in government.
Right.
You know, because you come from a background where there's a family business involved. Right. There is no such thing. There is, you hire the people necessary to do the work, and that's it. And then when you need that extra, you work the longer hours. You work the longer. I remember when George Orwell wrote me an email and said, you know, I have a law firm and that's a business. And I wrote back, but it's not the same thing because you still get paid whether you win or lose. You don't understand the risk. Yeah, the nature of, right, exactly. The risk again.
You don't understand the risk of business. I says, and that's why you need business. I advocated Donnie Peters. Now, I want to ask you something because you have been in the arena quite a few times now.
Yes.
Now, I wrote a column advocating 2 restaurant owners in Yorktown to run for office. There are rumblings in Peekskill of a couple business people that are dissatisfied with the present government that may want to finally get into politics. What advice, as a businessman, these are business people now, would you give to a business person who wants to throw his hat into the ring? You've done it.
Well, the biggest piece of advice, there's 2 answers, and I would say this, is that it's a commitment, especially if you're a businessman now. This is so...
Right, we're talking about strictly business people that are interested in throwing their hat in the ring.
Is that, number one, the minute you decide to run for office, and especially coming from that locality, that township, whatever, you've got to understand that the minute you run, that almost the day one that you announce you run, you almost set up the other half, whichever side of the fence you're on, the other half no longer maybe appreciates you as much as they once did before. Right. Because anonymity in the sense that they don't know your political background or your
successful business people usually keep their politics to themselves.
Keep their
unless it's their intimate friends.
My father
you don't even put your own signs on your window.
I don't even put my own signs on my own window because my father used to say November 4th is the election and November 5th you're back at work. Mm-hmm. And people are impacted by the stances you may take on things. When you get home, you can do whatever you like to do. But after that, or during that time of work, that's what feeds you, and that's important. And that's because it's your family, it's everything is on your own. So you are, as a business owner, especially running in the township, you are somewhat handcuffed. Being if you work for a company down the city in White Plains, you're isolated. It really has no impact.
Or a teacher, or a lawyer, or a real estate agent, as many of our elected officials are. They're either teachers, lawyers, real estate agents.
Right.
But now, would you discourage them, or do you think they should get involved in the process? You have still been involved in the process.
I've always been the advocate that if you want good government and you think you're a good person, you run for office.
So you think it's worth the risk?
I think it's worth the risk on my end. Now, another person may not. And, you know, there are times when
they have to judge that, though.
It's a judgment made on them because it not only impacts you, because the other side of this, especially in a family business, is that you have other relatives that work there.
So, no, that's what I mean. So now what happens when you get those nasty letters to the editors? How does that affect your family?
Well, they're incensed. I mean, you know, they're angry and they want to, you know, they like to go out and maybe, you know, beat up on someone, but it's not.
Yeah, but when you find out it's one of your customers that wrote it, do you still smile and say welcome? And
yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about the family members. How do you control them to make sure that they're still going to smile and say thank you for doing business?
Well,
here?
because you know what, you sit down and talk to them early on. You say, listen, there are maybe things that are going to be said about me as a candidate that you may not appreciate. That's part of the game. Politics is a full...
it's a contact sport.
It's a contact sport. It's not a... Right. You can't just sit on the sidelines and say, well, we'll just get around this and do this.
One of my best columns was when I did the Crybaby Republicans. And, because this is when the Degnan camp was reporting the ball camp to this elections commission's unfair practices commission, and I write a column and I says, oh, they're complaining that Greg Ball said nasty things about me, wah wah wah, and the paper left the wah wah wahs in, and this column got so much play it wound up in conservative blogs in Albany and in Mount Vernon. I don't know anybody up there,
sure,
but it was such a resonating column because people understood politics
is like that.
Is a contact sport.
Right.
If you ain't got the stomach for it, just get out.
Just get out. Oh, agreed. And
it's not for the faint or heart of the thinner skin.
No, not at all. And you need a stomach of steel some cases too, because like I said,